Well met, everyone. I am Rich the Lich, and this video is a Ramble Rich video. Ramble Rich is a video series where I basically just take my mind wherever it goes and I reveal it to you on screen. There's always so many things out there that can be the catalyst for some wonderful adventure. I want to simply show you how I can take something random, run with it, twist it and manipulate it, and make it into something that I might be able to bring with me to my gaming table for a 5th edition, for maybe just a quick session, or maybe just one part of a session, the inspiration for an NPC, or the foundation for a certain encounter or a fight, or maybe even just a single mechanic that I apply to a certain monster. Maybe this extrapolates, if that's the word, this goes even further and it turns into a full-blown adventure or an entire campaign. Whatever it may be, I don't know where my mind is going to go with it, but by showing this process to you, you might be able to find a couple of things that you can latch onto and maybe springboard off of for your own creativity, or just simply take from whatever it is I'm doing and try and create this skill set yourself. And in doing that, you will never run dry. As they say creatively, if you don't ever allow the well to if you don't allow the well to run dry, you will always have water. You'll always have the fuel and the nourishment that you need to create some amazing stories. So let's get into it. What I have open is I have Hearthstone. Hearthstone has 9 classes. There's a druid, there's a hunter, a mage, a paladin, a priest, a rogue, a shaman, a warlock, and a warrior. Of those 9 classes, I'm going to pick one at random here. So, well, not at random. I'm going to pick one. Let's go with paladin. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'm going to say new deck. I'm going to make a paladin. I'm going to hit choose. And then since I don't have a deck made, Hearthstone uses 30 card decks. From the available cards I have in my collection, which is quite a few, I've been playing the game since beta, and although I don't have cards from the latest 2 expansion sets, not a lot of them at least, it's going to have a large pool of cards to choose from. What I'll do is I'll say choose, and then as I say complete my deck, since I'm not making my own deck and I'm not putting in my own cards, it's going to ask, do you basically want the computer to randomly finish the deck automatically? I don't know what algorithm it runs through. Obviously, as I've chosen Paladin, it's going to pick from a bunch of Paladin cards, but it may throw some neutral cards in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let it complete my deck automatically, and then I'm going to scroll down to whatever the 30th and final card is. That way it is truly random because I don't know what it's going to give me. Whatever that last card is, that's the card I'm going to use to talk about for this video. That's the card that is going to be the catalyst for everything I talked about in the beginning. It will be the inspiration and the foundation for whatever I create that I would bring with me to the table. So, let's do it. Ooh, good one. Tirion Fordring. If you look down here, it's the very last. I've scrolled down all the way. It's the last card in the deck. So, whatever I do today, I will make something based on what I'm inspired by and the details of this specific Hearthstone card, which is Tirion Fordring. He's a legendary. He's one of the best legendaries. He always has been. He's also one of the oldest. He's been around. He's from what they call the classic set. Also, there is, of course, a great, there's a tie-in. It's Blizzard's product, right? It's a card game with a lot of the details and lore and whatnot and characters from World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft does have a really good tie-in to Dungeons & Dragons. There's a lot of fantasy elements and raids and various things that might tie in to the things we might find in D&D. Tirion is an iconic character, so while it might seem easy, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to twist it a little bit and make this character that we're looking at here, Tirion, about something a little different than what we might expect. So what do I mean? I'm going to close this out and I can simply just put Tirion up on the screen and just talk with you. We're just hanging out, having coffee, chatting about it, right? So we have Tirion Fordring. Tirion Fordring.
Put your faith in the light.
So what Tirion is he is an 8 mana, 6/6. So he's a creature. Or, right? I forget what they call it in Hearthstone now. I haven't played in a while, but he's an 8 mana crystal cost, 6/6. That's high on the higher end of cost, right? The most you have in the game is you have 10 mana crystals, so he's not coming in till late game. 6/6 is very powerful. He's a legendary, so he's the rarest cards in Hearthstone. Legendaries are the rarest cards. He is one of them, right? He's one of the best, as I said. He has all these different abilities. The easy thing would be to say that I'm going to create some boss battle with some D&D creature that's inspired by Tirion Fordring, and give that creature various traits and actions and special abilities or magical spells that sound kind of like what's here. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to try and create an environment inspired by what's going on here. Okay, so I see an 8. Instead of thinking casting cost, right? So instead of relating that to like the CR of a monster, the 8 to me means I want 8 druids to be involved. Why 8? I don't know, other than there's an 8 there. Okay, now let's use the other 2 numbers on this card. We have a 6 and we have a 6. So 66. Does that mean anything to me? No, because we're not talking anything modern or Overwatch where we have Route 66, right? So I'm going to take the 6s individually. So there's 8 druids, and there are 6 specific spells that are required in order to unlock one of 6 different doors. Okay, so there's 8 druids, so 2 of the druids don't have any spells. They're not integral to the unlocking of these doors. Okay, but there is this place, a location, an environment. I don't know where that is yet. I haven't brainstormed through that. This is all, as you see, random. It's all, I'm coming up with it right now. So there's this place of significance, and there are 6 doors, let's say, and that's where the first 6 comes from. These 6 doors are all magically sealed with some ancient, ritualistic, forbidden magic, long gone, long forgotten, not something that's in your typical arcane or divine spell list, okay? Rogues can't get through it. You're not going to disable device, you know, dispel. You can't, there's something very specific that needs to unlock these doors. So those 6 doors each need to be unlocked by 6 specific keywords, or if you want to look at an actual physical object, there are 6 specific keys that need. This sounds like the 6 sheep sick, right? The tongue twister. So there are 6 specific keywords that are required in order to unlock each of these 6 doors. The druids possess these keywords. So each druid of 6 has one of these keywords. So what do the other 2 druids have to do with anything? I don't know yet. But let's look at the name. There's nothing there, right, that resonates to me, because I'm not creating a creature. I'm not creating a boss encounter where his name is, you know, Ryan Dringfor, right, which is just a play on the spelling of his name. So you don't have to use everything. As long as I have enough information and enough fuel that I can run with something and bring something, content to the table, that's all you need. So I'm just going to throw away the name. The fact that he's legendary, very simple. This is a legendary place. The druids are known to be of legend, so they're not just there, you know, wandering around through towns or through nature. The PCs will have to go through this sort of elaborate story. Maybe this is something that is the culmination of many different sessions, you know, leading one after the other, where they sort of follow through and research this lore, this legend, this myth about this ancient place that's sealed by 6 doors. And finally, at the end of the legend, the PCs discover that there's 6 doors they need to get into, and there are 8 druids responsible for helping them unlock these doors. Okay, so there's the legendary, there's the 8, there's the 6, there's the 6. So this guy has Divine Shield. Rather than just using the sort of just the wording of it, I know, since I play the game, what that means. Divine Shield is a mechanic in Hearthstone where it puts a bubble on the creature. So the first instance of damage that this thing takes, instead of dealing, no matter whether it's 1 point or 30 points, instead of taking any damage, it just knocks the Divine Shield off, right? So he's invulnerable to the first instance of damage. He also has, let's just, before we go on to the other stuff, let's run with Divine Shield. So what I want to say is each of these doors have a sort of immunity. Okay, and all that does is that just sparks me, right? Someone within the group, a PC might want to, you know, a rogue may want to be like, let's just try and blow up the door. Or the half-orc says, let me just hit the door with my warhammer. Let's see what happens. What they realize is there's this shield. They don't see it initially, but there's this shield around each of the 6 doors. And when they try and damage the door and just destroy it and take it down by brute force, that shield kind of boom. Now, in Hearthstone, once you take the damage, the shield goes away. In this particular case, the doors remain shielded, but it indicates to the group that they can't get through the door by they need another way to get through. They're not just going to force their way in. That's what Divine Shield tells me. This guy also has Taunt. What Taunt in Hearthstone means is when he is out and he has Taunt, in order to attack, because as the players have a choice with the creatures they control to either attack the enemy hero, which is what you want to do to win the game, or you can attack the enemy hero's creatures, their minions that are in play. A taunt creature says that you have to attack him before you can attack any others. Think of the typical tanking aspect, right? Or taunting from an MMO or a random role-playing game where you're drawing the attention to you. No one else can deal damage to anything else unless they deal damage to him first. So that's what taunt does. Are the doors going to taunt the PCs? No, they're not going to, they're not going to let loose a bunch of curses and yelling at them and, you suck, you can't open us. They're not going to do anything like that. That's not what I mean by taunt. So what can I do with that, right? And this is showing you how my mind is working. What you want to often do is, as you brainstorm, don't get into a logic system yet, right? Don't start to wrangle things in so much that you lose creativity because you're now trying to say to yourself, wait a minute, I'm being creative, but does that make sense? Is that really how it works? Don't get into the logic side of your brain yet. Stay just free where it's almost ridiculous and doesn't make any sense, kind of like this entire concept, because that's what's going to allow your mind to stay the most open to those possible Bob Ross's serendipity, right? Those happy ideas that might just be in there. So you don't want to confine it yet. So since I'm trying to now piece together what the hell this taunt thing means, and I can't come up with anything, I'm starting to lose the creative side, and I'm starting to try and dial in too much of the detail on taunt. Therefore, I'm going to skip over taunt for right now. We'll come back to it. We know what Divine Shield is. Last thing, he has Death Rattle. Death Rattle effect is an effect where when he dies, something triggers, something happens, okay? Here, when he dies, you equip a 5/3 weapon. So you equip this amazing weapon. Very simple. I love it. When the 6 doors are destroyed, and we've already established because of the shield, you can't physically destroy them. When the 6 doors are dead, if you will, right? When they no longer serve their purpose of a barrier. When they are destroyed, the PCs in maybe the middle door, well, 6, it wouldn't be a middle door, but in one of the 6 doors, the PCs find a weapon. Okay, so when this character, this Tirion Fordring dies, you equip a weapon. When you kill the doors, you get past that obstacle, you overcome that challenge, a weapon is available. And that weapon becomes a key integral part for later on in the dungeon. Okay, we don't need to worry about what happens yet because I've only got this one card to work with. And just like happened with Taunt, I don't want to get into this logic system of, okay, well, now they have a weapon. What's the weapon for? It doesn't matter right now. They just have a cool weapon. Let's just make it cool and fun and stay in the idea phase. So they have this weapon and they use it for something later. I just need to get this thing to the table and get the characters to this point. So now let's bring in the Taunt. Remember, we have 2 of the druids, because I said there was 8 based off of his casting costs. 6 of them, one of each of the 6 special druids have a key or some puzzle or a code word or something, a clue, to help the PCs unlock those 6 doors. So there's 2 druids that are sort of standing around doing nothing. Maybe before the PCs even get to the druids, there's these 2 druids that are sort of in statue mode, right? And they're flanking the if that's the right word. The other 6 druids are sort of standing in line in the middle of this ancient grove, and there's these 2 statue druids. The PCs look at them, and they don't look like carved stone statues. They look so detailed that the PCs, maybe make some investigation or perception checks. The PCs can quickly discern that those druids, those 2 statues, are more like petrified druids. They're really the druids. They're just currently on some sort of petrified stone form. And they're the taunt mechanic as he would be actually in the game and just as a warrior would in an MMO or something like that. You have to deal with those 2 druids before you even can get to the 6. Before you can approach those 6, those 2 sort of... And imagine, what is it? The Numenorian? The iconic, the Lord of the Rings statues, right? As they're sailing down through the middle. Imagine the 2 druids are like that with hands out. And there's a stop. The PCs can't go any further. And then what happens is that's just the taunt mechanic, right? So as I said, in Hearthstone, the taunt mechanic means before you can attack, before you can interact with any other monsters on your opponent's board, you have to deal with the guy that has taunt first. You have to kill him or remove him from the table. Once there's no taunt guy in play, you're now free to choose whether you want to attack the hero or attack the creatures. So in this particular case, you need to deal with the 2 druid statues that are telling you to stop. And maybe it is an actual, like, a power word stun effect, you know, or just this impassable barrier. And if you don't deal with them, you can't interact with the other 6. How they deal with them and what that taunt is it a fight? Is there a puzzle or a riddle they need to figure out the answer to? I don't know. But that's where and how you can take something very random and use that. And now I can easily jump into Microsoft Word, start typing some stuff out, and I've got something I can run with and bring with me to the table. Something that the PCs most likely have never seen before. Something that you can't find in any pre-published module or adventure because it's so ridiculous and comes from such a random place. But that's the beauty of creativity, because then it's also not just the neat and interesting thing that you bring to the table for your group. It's the spark that provides and the excitement that you now have as a creator in trying to wrangle this in and now actually start getting into the player's handbook and the DMG and getting some mechanics behind it. Now you can go into the logic phase. Like I said, if you have to fight those 2 druids that are sort of the taunt mechanic, what's their stats? What's their hit points? How hard are they to hit? So on and so forth. So there you have it. That's my Tirion Fordring Ramble Rich, my mind on screen, showing you how I take something completely out of nowhere and come up with something that I can bring to my table as a dungeon master to present some cool, awesome gameplay for my players. So that's all I have for you. Thank you everyone for watching. See you later.